I listened with great interest to Chris's speech earlier, Chris's talk, not speech, apologise, because of my background, I recognise a lot of the precedents and history in some of those things forming, but also I have two sons, both of which are in the armed forces, and I really want them to have the best equipment that's available, so I'm encouraged by that. I also have greatly aged parents who go in hospitals, and I want them to be looked after properly, and I'd like to think I have some influence over that. Won't go into quite so much detail about the challenges facing the NHS at the moment, because there are many, and time wouldn't allow, but what I'd like to take you through is what the National Innovation Centre is there for, and what we can do and how we can do it, and to look at a specific challenge that the Department of Health has set up around HCAI, which is healthcare acquired infection. Huge problem, very topical. And DH said to themselves, I wonder if technology's got a role to play in here, and came to us to see what we could do. So I'll take you through that. I'll take you through our wouldn't it be great if concept for the NHS, which is probably obvious to you, but it's radical in my new world. And I'll show you some examples of where somebody said, I would like something to do this. Somebody identified a need. And we come from the premise that almost anything is possible without necessarily having to do an awful lot of research. So it's out there and it's repurposing what's there, and materials has an aspect in that. So first of all, a little bit about the National Innovation Centre. Our sponsor is going to be visited by you soon, I understand, Miles Ayling in the Commissioning and Service Directorate of the DH. We actually operate out of a special health authority, the NHS Institute for Innovation and Improvement, based at the University of Warwick campus. We're hosted by them, and I'm quite pleased to say we've been given special directions by the Secretary of State for Health that allow us to directly support innovation without tripping over all those difficult things like state aid, where an SME will come along and go, we've got this, and you go, well, we're going to have to run a competition, EU says that. We've got special rules within boundaries that help us move fast. We're 3 years old. We spent the first year setting ourselves up, so we've only really been operational for 2. And we were set up under a mandate from industry, interestingly enough. There was industry complained, just like you wouldn't imagine, to government about what a poor market the NHS was, how poor it was at taking up innovation, even recognising innovation, what a terrible market it was to sell to, because there was no single point of entry. There were 300 plus trusts, and they felt they had to go knocking on the door of each trust and do the sales pitch every time. So government's response was to set up the Healthcare Industries Task Force, which is what the HITF is. And it came out with a series of 9 or 10 recommendations, one of which was that there would be a thing called the National Innovation Centre as a point of entry for people who felt they had good ideas to talk to and have a point of entry into the NHS. We also oversaw the activity of the existing regional innovation hub network. There are, in the 9 regions, there are 9 innovation hubs. They are there to try and help the trusts get ideas out of the NHS and get them commercialised, and we linked in with them. We're only a small team, and by a small team, I mean we don't reach 10. So our stance wasn't tell us your ideas and we'll work with you and get it through. It was tell us what you've got and we'll tell you what you need to do, but we'll help you help yourself. And that's where the innovation management system comes from. There are defined steps in the process of taking an innovation from a concept through to developing an instance of its solution, to demonstrating that it works, to getting the clinical data that the NHS demands, to getting it to the market. And we've put together a series of web-based tools to help SMEs in particular do this. And because the SME world understands the concept of quality, we've had it accredited to ISO 9000. NHS hasn't got a clue what that means, but it gives some confidence to SMEs to come and talk to people that do. We're working with DIAS around these tools, who are looking at them under a project called The Key to Innovation, to de-NHSify them and to white label them and to make them available to all other government departments so that they can start being innovative in their own particular sectors. Really what we're looking at is, of course, using innovation as a problem-solving technique. because out of the work of HITIF, it very quickly became clear that what industry saw as barriers to adoption was actually a mismatch between what they were offering and what the service wanted. Not that the service actually told anybody what it was they wanted, of course, that was a secret. And that's the point there. It's a very, very poor external articulation of need. And they actually don't know themselves. So our methodology that we operate in has got 4 strands to it, which are, first of all, let's help the NHS say out loud what its needs are. When a clinician sees something, why am I doing this, then that, then that? Why can't I go straight from here to there? Why do I have to wait 4 days for lab results to come back? Why can't I have a point of care test or diagnostic? When they see things like that, but don't necessarily know what the answer is, we've given them a way to articulate that through a web portal called the Statement of Clinical Need, SOCN, which we co-funded for the last 2 years with the Healthcare Knowledge Transfer Network, sponsored, of course, out of the TSB. As of this year, we, the NIC, are taking that forward and developing it further, and it's under development now. When somebody actually sees a need and they think they've seen a solution for it, from either patients or from the NHS, our experience of the hub world is that usually it's actually a poorly designed solution to only one facet of a bigger need. So we always found we had to reverse engineer it and get back to what's the original problem that's trying to be solved. So one of the things we're trying to do is to help the innovators understand that themselves. What is the actual need? And we've developed a scorecard where they can self-assess their solutions and its likelihood of uptake into the NHS. We run what anybody else would call brainstorming, but in this world it's called Wouldn't It Be Great If, which is get a bunch of clinicians together who haven't thought about their problems and just get them to have some time out and just finish this sentence. Wouldn't it be great if what? Because tell us what it is, because the chances are we can get it done. And at a larger scale, DH is running a set of national challenges which are the big societal issues around healthcare. And in actual fact, I have to rush off after this because we're running them in conjunction with TSB and SBRI, and there's an assessment session for one of the calls this afternoon. So we're using the SBRI service or system to make national calls for healthcare problems. That sounds awfully complicated, but if you draw it as a picture, it just looks like this. The National Innovation Centre sitting there with identifying needs from the service at the top, and there are 2 types of those. There are the ad hoc needs that clinicians pop up with as they think of them, and we have to be able to capture those. And there are the focused needs where we say, obesity is a problem, we need to do something about it, or DH does. And again, we seek solutions, and there are the ad hoc solutions that people come up with, and the focused solutions where we sit down and actually design a solution. And our systems for that, our statement of clinical need is the ad hoc need identification. Scorecard is the ad hoc solution assessment. Wouldn't it be great if is the focused articulation of need, and the national challenges via SBRI, and some funds that are coming out to the strategic health authorities to be announced next week by Lord Darcy, are the focused solutions to identified large-scale problems. And what we do is we take all of those, we pull them together, and we get them plugged into the service, be it DH, be it NHS, be it showcase hospitals to actually show these things in action, and yes, they do work, why not take them up? So we do brokerage and linkage and assessment. Now the key to this, of course, is that it's needs driven, and this is a new concept to the NHS. We've worked with a great many bright ideas, and fundamentally there are 2 truths that have to be fulfilled for a successful idea. The first is they really are not good at thinking about what its needs are, and even worse, about telling people what they are. The second is the brightest of ideas stands absolutely no chance of engaging and entering service unless it can provide a 3-way win to 3 important groups of stakeholders, which are the patients, the healthcare and social care providers, and industry. If the solution cannot be made and bought and sold at a profit, it isn't going to happen. So one of our assessment criteria is to look at whatever the idea is and say, is it going to fit at the locus of that Venn diagram? Because if it isn't, it's not going to go.